We will discuss the recent suspension of Guyana from the EITI, Environmental
No, Extractive
Industry Transparency Initiative. Sorry, I'm a little bit shaken up. Sorry about that.
We could understand.
So, and my guests are Mr. Kamaraj Ramjatan to my immediate left, no stranger to plain talk, no stranger to Guyanese, former leading member of the PPP, then a leading member of the APNU AFC coalition government, now a member of parliament and leader of the AFC, and on his left, Dr. Anand Gulsaran, former Auditor General of Guyana, regular columnist, Accountancy Watch in the Sabbath News. His columns are known for their directness, in which it addresses matters essentially of accounting. So I didn't think there could be a better pair of persons to join me this evening on Plain Talk. Gentlemen, welcome to Plain Talk. Thank you very much for coming, and welcome back to Guyana. I know you've been out of Guyana for a while. It's always reassuring to know that a fellow accountant is here. Reassuring to know, Cameron, that you're here.
Too. Yeah. So thanks very much for being on the program tonight.
Our suspension. Now, the government didn't announce the suspension. It was actually not announced by the independent media,
Stavro.
by the Sabbath News.
Yeah.
The government knew about it. What do you make of that?
Well, EITI is all about transparency. And
Quite ironic.
and all decisions, all important activities, all important events must be publicized. And that's why when we have a EITI, the Secretariat in Norway, and then Guyana joined in 2007, it's all about transparency.
They joined during the government of the APNU AFC.
Yes.
I think we were there at the Umanayana
Yes.
when Prime Minister Nagamoto announced it.
It was in 2017, I think it's August, that Guyana applied for membership, and they were accepted sometime around October.
Mm-hmm.
And the EITI has their own rules and regulations and standards and policies which all EITI...
What is it about? What is the EITI about?
Well, by the, look at the EITI Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative. It was born out of...
An extractive industry meaning...
Gold, diamond, oil,
forestry.
And fishery.
And fishery.
We had included fishery.
Right.
Yes. Which is something of an extension.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And that's right.
Because I think it had to do with the high probability that corrupt activities can take place. And this is the reason why this initiative came. But it started it was born in South Africa in 2002 World Summit Conference. And in that conference, they talk about the need to protect the environment and a whole set of issues. And then eventually it was formed, and Norway took the lead. It's now on 166 member countries that form the EITI now. And so Guyana, is a member and has to follow all the rules and the standards that were set up over the years.
6 years practically after being admitted, you get suspended.
Yeah.
That doesn't show well on our international image, does it?
Well, I think 2007, I've been following the work of the Guyana EITI for 5 years, during which period I was doing some who worked for the European Union. And in 2015, we had developed, I had developed it as part of my assignment, the Budget Transparency Action Plan. And one of the items in the BTAB had to do with EITI. At that time, in 2015, Guyana was not a member, so the action item was to take steps to be part of the EITI process. And the government adopted in 2016 the Budget Transparency Action Plan. And so in 2017, we've got it.
Join.
But
Cameron,
things had started sometime in 2010.
That's correct.
under the BBB.
Under the PPP, they had started a process of, because there are calls by the opposition, there are calls internationally that indeed gold mining and forestry concessions and so on, it is important as part of good governance and transparency that Guyana enter this body. And I understand 2010 it was Jagdeo who had indicated that yes, he will start the process. Then there was some developments in 2012, but then it halted completely. I was at that time also making some what's happening with these things, because I knew that just like Transparency International, which has to do with transparency generally, this Extractive Industries Transparency Institute was also very important. And if you really want to live the examined life in relation to extractive industries, government and also the multi-stakeholder, which is the people involved with forestry, the people involved with gold mining, diamond mining, they must give all the information to the relevant authority, and the relevant authority must confirm that that is genuine information in relation to almost everything dealing with concession, royalties paid, taxes paid, and everything, so that the country can live that completely transparent manner. And yes, but then just like a lot of the things that I must say, I'm not being political here, I had problems with Mr. Jagdeo whilst in the PPP because of the fact, remember the Procurement Commission? Mm-hmm. We had passed that in a constitutional amendment, and he did not want to constitute nor establish the thing. And so all of this was why, of course, by that time we had formed our own political party, EFC, and had started the process of asking these questions.
You raise an interesting point just now, Kemraj, the Transparency International. Only a couple of weeks before, TI had come out and said, look, the pace of improvement had stagnated. Any link?
Of course. It is my opinion that there is a serious link. Look, you might have different positions here. We are all right to disagree with each other and agree to disagree. But I believe that the administration of the present term do not like good governance. They do not like transparency. And that is why, for about 14 years ago, I coined this term called control freakism. And it is because they feel that if you go and you tell the public too many things, it could backfire on the administration. But I had always told them, whilst being in there, that never backfires. If you go and you become more transparent, people are going to like you for that. Because people are now going to be in a position to know who are the gold miners that get how much of our country's territory. Who are the Baramas locally, and who are not paying up their monies and their royalties and their levies and so on. And so we can know. It is very good to have that kind of thing, because a lot of people show off their lifestyles, gold miners and so on, and they don't pay the royalties, they don't pay the taxes and things like that. So are we going to know? And that is what it is all about. And you get a better democracy ultimately when you have leaders in the sectors plus the government wanting to be transparent.
You know, and we raised the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index. and we're putting these things together. A couple of weeks ago, we had this announcement of a $4.1 billion or something like that money laundering scam involving a set of Guyanese on behalf of somebody from China or some bodies from China. How, when you add these things together, you're an accountability issue, man. How do these things add up, and are they all related?
Well, they must be related in the sense that, it doesn't reflect well on good governance practices, doesn't look well in terms of transparency, it doesn't look well in terms of tendency towards corrupt behavior. Because all these things lend themselves to corrupt behavior. So it will affect the index, the CPI, the Corruption Perception Index. And then we have all these issues, a string of issues. And I think the CPI, we achieve a 40%, 40 out of 100, which was 1 point improvement.
And
I think-
yes.
I think the index doesn't fully capture what is going on. And I have said it that it does take some time, like a year or so. That's what Transparency International said, that it takes about a year, a little more, for the index to catch up with what is really happening. So what you see as 40% is maybe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were to take into account current event, we would be worse off.
Well, we had something last year. It was Mr. Su who came to be known.
Sugate, yeah.
The Sugate, involving serious accusations against our vice president.
That is
There was clearly a relationship.
absolutely, and in view of the fact that these 4 money launderers who have been charged with those several counts have indicated to the Soko people that their connections were Chinese. Look, we got to put 2 and 2 and not necessarily get 22, but we can get 4. We're going to be more accurate with the additions. And so it is vital that when we check back on that interview done by Isabel Young, what was her name? And the responses we got from numero uno, I call him these days, because he still is in charge of the country and otherwise, it is important to understand that this thing got a nexus. These are the base people, basically. They deal with people, and look, I believe that the Chinese people, embassy officials too, must try to clear their international reputation in relation to matters like these by giving Soku all the information. It is my understanding that Soku has been blocked, literally, from going any further. Charge the people, matter done. To go now to find out,
That's a serious accusation
It is a
coming from a senior attorney.
absolutely. And it is
And you
true.
make that consciously.
And I
of
make
the
that
implications.
consciously, just like how Mr. Hirsch said that the Nord Stream was bombed by the Biden administration officials. There is evidence that I have, literally, that indeed they want not to go further. You know what the further will mean? It will vindicate the answers that Isabel Young got from some of the Chinese people she interviewed in that interview. And that is the trouble. So don't expect you can get any further with this matter. I know that you have asked and you have come out with some recommendations in the Starbuck News as to where it should now go or where it ought to have gone a long time.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
We probably have blown the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yes, go on.
This raises an important issue about the operations of Soku. To what extent it is functioning in a professional, independent way.
That's right.
I'm inclined to believe that Soku is taking political directives, and is not seen to be operating
Professional.
as an agency of the state. but protecting the interests of,
You realize making a statement like that could actually compromise investigations, however. Somebody going to say, well, look, no less than the former Accountant General, Auditor General.
But it is necessary to state it, We have to make this statement. I mean, you would want to believe that there are professionals within SOCU who are going to want to do their work. I know of that. I have seen that being Public Security Minister. And you allow them to do their work, and wheresoever the course takes them and the destination, so be it. But this one here, because it has certain connections with big players inside of the political organization.
You remember also this National Risk Assessment?
Yes.
Yeah, that,
That's it, anti-money laundering issue.
right.
Yes.
That was a damning report, in terms of the operation of SOCU.
That's right.
So I don't know. My own feeling is that it is not functioning the way it ought to.
Starboard News editorialized on this matter, and it said, which confirms what you were saying, Anand, that look, SOCU was playing a little bit of politics by saying, from August 2020. Now, what is August 2020? They're coming into administration of the PPP Civic. That sounds like a tainted political statement.
Yeah, well, look, I believe that the professionalism should shine out. And it can only be done by certain leading members of the police force saying, hold on, allow these people to function. And you have a leadership in central government also saying, please, we're going to stay away from this thing. I am not getting that from the administration. And I could understand why, because of course we had so many matters being delivered on to the public via Isabel Young and others, and the report that Anand just mentioned and so on. And so it is a serious matter. The governance, financial governance of this country. Banks also. Banks who have a duty to talk about suspicious transactions might very well too feel that all that is going on now, they might not want to talk about suspicious transactions in a very transparent way.
But the law does require them.
Of course, the law does require them.
You had, or your party, getting back to the EITI, your party was not very hopeful about EITI
Oh
becoming.
yes. So that was almost a prophetic a kind of prediction that I had made, and that was only last year, November, But I happen to have been following it for a long time, as I told you, just like Anand has and you have, and I had come to the realization after having a discussion with some of my players, and sometimes when you're a political leader, you got to make statements every now and often that is going to bring the issue back to the table.
Draw people.
Yeah, you got to do something that is going to, stir the moment, as it were. And I decided to do that on November, I think it was mid-November last year, and predict that we are going to get suspended or expelled or something like that.
Well, we just suspended for the moment.
Well, we got suspended here. And if they don't get this thing, and I was very critical of who they took, because they were maliciously stating that Jalupat was a member of the AFC. Jalupat never was a member of the AFC, and that is why they knocked him off. At least that is what the two barracks said, both Vikram and Jagdeo. They indicated that the man is an AFC man. There is nothing about that. The man is a true professional economist, and he did a wonderful job.
In any case, is being an AFC person a disqualification for any position in this country?
If you replace an AFC person with
a
premier, and one who is not on principles of meritocracy could fill it. Well, that is what is real, because we now understand from Mr. McCormack that the man was missing for 5 months.
Well, let's go back to this. So, after Starboard News brought this matter to the attention of the public, the president came out and swearing to be getting to the bottom of it and leaving no stone unturned, and blaming Mike McCormack and Van der Radzik. How did that story play out, this blame of Radzik and McCormack?
Well, having named the president having made the statement that he did made, I don't know if he realized that there's going to be some clarification on the part of those people who were fingered. And I read that clarification very, very.
It was a clarification, was a rebuttal.
Was a rebuttal. Well, they call it clarification in the letter.
If you know Van der Van is an extremely polite woman.
Yeah. But when I read it, I'm so convinced that that what they've said, and I don't doubt that what they've said is untrue. So if that's the case, then was the president misled, or he knew? I don't know. But
well, I will go further. He very well knew.
He must have
He
known.
wanted
He must have
to
known.
exaggerate and disguise his concern. Look, I happen to have lived a very friendly life with this president when he was in PPP, when I was PPP member and all that. And I had some great hopes. But you see, when he did what he did there, trying to give this disguised concern, and then put the blame on the two civil society members, that was shameless. To go that far, to go and say that they are the ones blocking the multi-stakeholder or some other thing. You remember he was making some explanation?
Yes.
Yeah, and then putting the blame there. I am so glad that they bravely came out and did what they did. But
that was integrity on their part.
Absolutely. You're going to talk something and expect these two formidable citizens of ours, of worth, not going to respond? I knew that was going to come out. And it looked so embarrassing now to the president. Because it, in a sense, well, I don't want to use the word lie, but that he was misrepresenting. Obviously. What was the true nature of it? And then we learned too that the man that he replaced Jadupat with was on a frolic of his own.
Which we will come to in a minute.
Yeah.
And now, if the president was in fact misled, and then there is this open letter to the president, should the president not have reacted to it and said, look,
Of course.
my statement was inaccurate. I thank these civil society members for their clarification. I am properly guided, and I will deal with it. Isn't that the response? Now you're a civil society member.
Yeah.
All of us should be concerned.
yeah, I would hope that the president will issue a statement, whatever he wants to say. But if he doesn't do that, then the statement from those two civil society officials will stand against what.
And he stands condemned.
Yes, so he needs to come out somehow.
Do you see this as targeting civil society?
Oh, yes.
No, I want Anand because he's a civil. You're a politician. You stay out of this.
Well, no. As a politician, I understand that too. So it will be tainted somewhat because I'm a politician. But I'm telling you, that is one of the reasons for a long, long time why civil society has not developed in Guyana. It is because of this kind of governance approaches by especially the PPP over the years. They don't want the 22 member in that Natural Resource Fund.
Yes.
They don't want the Public Procurement Commission. They didn't want how long they hesitated before they found the Integrity Commission. Almost all the commissions. They took very lengthy periods of time before they could constitute, and you had to bang it in their heads. They don't like good governance. They don't like that at all. So it is my view, wheresoever they will have even the least opportunity to clip its wings, civil society wings will be clipped by this administration.
Well, we hope not. Anand himself writes every week.
Yeah.
But there are far, far too many people. Now, I have not seen, and I stand accused as well, anybody come out and congratulate Mike McCormack and Van der Radzik for their stand.
Well, in a way,
And to,
we
and to
we
call,
were doing
well,
that.
yeah, but you not civil society.
Okay.
No, and I think the president ought to apologize to these two people.
Yeah, and try to understand where the real blame is.
Well,
That's right.
now we come to this. You had this gentleman, Jadupat, who was blamed for being an AFC. I didn't realize you all are such pariahs that being an AFC
Well,
is
you
in
just-
fact.
You just check
According-
Vincent Adams. By the way, he's in the country. You should get him to do a parade talk.
Oh, thanks for letting me know. Yes.
Well, I am accused of as
Oh yes.
I'm accused. In fact,
was-
there was there is a group in New York that recognized my work and wanted to give me an award, but then someone stood up and said, "Well, he's closely assigned to Kemras Ramjatan.
Yeah.
He's closely associated," and they decided against that. But even then, if they had informed me about that they wanted to give me an award, I doubt whether I would have accepted, because that group is a group that I don't think I would want to be associated with.
But it's
Because I'm a person who believes in all races.
Uh-huh. Now, but that inadvertently, but fortuitously, exposed another serious and egregious act in terms of bringing back Prem Nazir, a propagandist, to replace Jadupat, who had done several years. No, he had in fact published several years reports.
Oh yes, 3 years.
So
That is
this
6 years.
man, Prem Nazir, had a base on which to work. All he had-
Oh yeah, yeah.
yes, Prem Nazir, all he had to do is make sure he kept those things
right.
going and improving them. Now, what does it say about Prem Nazir? That he went AWOL for several months. Did the president not know this? Wasn't that a matter itself worthy of transparency and publicity?
The concerned minister ought to have been aware of. This is why I come back to the question: when the president issued the statement, was he misled?
Mhm.
Was he really misled?
You want to try and answer to the question?
Well, look, last year November.
But we talk about primacy because I think this is serious.
No, that is serious because of the fact too that it was highlighted in our November press release.
You knew
Yeah.
primacy that had gone.
No, I had known that we were calling for his resignation and the restoration of Jadupat because he was not there doing the work.
So you knew he was new.
I get some information. A lot of people share information from a number of organizations, and they want the people to know who can make these announcements too, and who are not going to just keep the information.
Well, there's a rumor that he was induced with additional perks to come back. Now, you know,
my
the-
question is, did he receive a salary during the 4-month period that he was absent?
it's an absolutely,
No, but
legitimate
the question
question.
will be asked by us. We will be asking the question.
and if so, how much?
Yeah.
Um,
But they pay people not to do work too. I mean, you got somebody in court now for.
you mean Charles Ramsey?
We had stopped paying him and so on. The man carried to court. What work he did? So many people ask for information. That is the quality of people that they put there so that they could block information getting out to the members of the public. It is a serious, serious problem. They are control freaks. They want to control everything. So you can't know who and who get for fishing license and so on. You're not supposed to know nothing. You're not supposed to know from the commissioner of information A position that we had done a draft legislation and then they come and they pass. Remember?
Yes.
That Raphael Chapman had arranged that.
We get views down at There Are Life, you remember?
Yeah.
And then you remember that meeting?
Yeah.
We got views down. A funeral blast.
Yeah. Trinidad and Jamaica, they don't have a commissioner. They have a Freedom of Information Act,
Yeah.
but they don't have a commissioner. And so you could go direct to government agency.
That's right.
But with this act, you can also go direct.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of it's
No, but it goes through the
the
commissioner.
commissioner. Yes. But he does nothing to. I'm not aware. Are you aware of any person who has been facilitated? I have a complaint. I have a request for information to Minister Vikram Baran. It's been months and months. The Commission of Information knows that. I wrote him. He said, "No, you write direct." So I did what he said.
Yeah.
That is all. You have an issue. Jonathan Yearwood has an issue. Others have had. What has this person done? Now, information and transparency, Kimraj, as far as I know, are fundamental to democracy.
Absolutely. It's one of the most important pillar of democracy.
Because if you
Freedom
don't
of
have information,
freedom of the press, freedom of the talk
freedom, yes, to
Yeah.
speak.
It's your conscience and all of that. It is what is the biggest bulwark of it. And it creates the rule of law, it creates human rights, and that is what distinguishes it from autocracies and authoritarian government. But that is one of the signal points I was trying to make, is that these fellas in government right now want to believe that democracy is only elections. That is all. And that you have nowhere where the what you call the controls of government, institutional controls, must operate functionally. No, they must not operate at all. And when you get, like the GAYEITI, two solid persons there, probably worth the thing in gold, that institution, because of these two people, because the rest could easily dabble about and don't want to talk and so on. That is what makes the democracy develop. If you start stifling all of them, you are going to have a very stunted democracy, and then it will become an autocracy.
Where are we in that poll? Stunted democracy or autocracy?
Well, I think we are in a stunted democracy heading towards autocracy. I read a beautiful piece by Arundhati Roy, who's talking about Narendra Modi is the same problem.
That's a piece in the Guardian recently.
Yes.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
And I didn't even know that all of this is happening in India, But the more you read, the more you get to learn. And indeed, I know these fellas like India bad, I don't know if they're taking some of these things.
The VP is in India
The
now.
VP is in India. You can get a president going in India, and probably they're taking a cue. Because you wanted to know that, okay, they said they're out from their Marxism, Leninism. They don't read them books no more. But for do this kind of stunted democracy thing, where are they doing it? It's got to be Erdogan and them fellas that they're talking about with stunted democracy. What you
mean
call
Hungary and those places?
Hungary and so on. And they put Narendra Modi in there. I got to do some more reading to find out if indeed it's true. But the trouble is, these are the institutions that they're mashing up right now in Guyana. The way they're not asking for you to have your Chief Justice and things like that. Okay, we were there. Indeed, for the 5 years, we didn't do it. But they said they're going to do it. They were there also for 7 years before and they didn't do it. What's happening? And so all of these institutions could be, nipped in the bud from growing, and we can have a democracy that is worse than we ever had any time in the country's history.
You also mentioned the absence of a petroleum commission. The petroleum commission is really a one-man show. That's the vice president. The minister.
You mean in place of the petroleum commission?
Yes,
We don't have a commission yet.
No, we don't. We don't. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Now, that itself is a denial of an EITI principle.
That's right.
Because look, and I'm going to write about this next week. This business about Exxon campus, the head office.
Mhm.
Now, there is nothing in the agreement that allows that to have as a recoverable cost. Yet Routledge came out and said, hold on, Kemraj, listen to this, that y'all agreed and that the PPP agreed. Apparently, y'all and the PPP are on the same plane when it comes to oil and gas. Now, there's another point I'm going to raise in the media. Do you know an external company, that's a branch of a company incorporated, cannot hold an interest in land which Exxon has without a license from the president? Which president gave Exxon that license? Was it Granger or was it Irfan Ali?
Well, you got me there. I don't know all
You know
the
that?
details.
Yeah, the president, I know.
That's
Now,
in
which-
the, that's in the
which land
common.
are you talking about? The Oka?
Yes, and
Okay.
Was it
I should-
state
I should-
land? Is it state land?
well, it's
Westmoreland.
we got some people who just trade in land. OAI, Ogle Airport Inc.
Uh-huh.
was given the lease
Uh-huh.
for the development
Of an airport.
of airport and airport facilities,
Mm.
and they've leased 10 acres
Yeah.
To Exxon.
to Exxon. Now that is, unless Granger or Irfan Ali has granted them that permission, then that is unlawful. It's a violation of the Companies Act.
Okay.
But I want to raise another point, and I know I shouldn't be talking this much.
Yeah, you talk. Go ahead.
You know the thing very well too. and
You know, in the petroleum agreement,
Uh-huh.
Annex C, it's called, the accounting recoverable costs.
Right.
Costs recoverable without even reference to the minister, costs that may be referenced with the minister, costs that can be, and some things that you can discuss with the minister. It's not on any, the only one it could have been with the approval of the minister, because it's not automatically allowed. It's not disallowed. It's not, it's a strange one that B is allowed with the approval of the minister, and then they go on that, where they said, if none of the above, then anything else as may be approved by the minister. It means that that the minister, who is probably Vikram Marat, and I hope he would answer this, gave permission for that to be a recoverable cost. Now,
Well, you put in my
there
right
it is,
there,
there it is. This absence of ring fencing, we grumble
Yeah,
that there's no ring fencing and Exxon can do what they want.
Mm.
Camarades, be careful. It means the government can do what it wants, because it could say, Exxon, you do this for us,
Yeah.
and treat it as a recoverable cost. That's a very dangerous thing.
No, I agree. Here, Chris, that is why when we did what we did, and people cuss us down for rotten contracts and all of that, but we wanted institutions.
Not without some justification.
No, but they can say what they want, whatever. Our thing now is that you have to put the institutions.
Yes.
That is why we wanted a Vince Adams. We knew of Vince dealing with ExxonMobil and all them big oil companies
United States
in the
of
United States under Barack Obama and Clinton and so on. And that is why we had him there. And we were putting him to talk to these and all the flaring and this and the environmental standards and so on. And we wanted, remember, in our Natural Resource Act, we had some economists that is going to determine how much money we're going to spend and so on, rather than 100% the first year, 90%, 80%, and so on.
Yes.
And the thing must be done with economic minds, just like the environmental thing will be done with environmental experts, and so on. And that we were told, and we got good advice, from people like Sir Paul Collier and a number of other people who wrote notes to us saying that, look, you have to make hard decisions. You don't have to doom your development. And so once it is now done, make sure that you get the proper experts, and the environmental and economists, to ensure that you have the best deal.
The Petroleum Commission, what's your view? What's your take on this, Alan?
Well, I'm so much disappointed that the bill is still in
No, it's dead. There is no bill. The bill, the legal position is a bill collapses at the end of the parliament.
Yeah.
It collapsed. So the PPP has done nothing, absolutely nothing.
It has not brought back our bill to.
That's correct. So let's not repeat that.
Yeah.
Now,
What we need to do is to, in some form, reactivate.
who is the we? Who is the we?
Well, we could bring a private member's bill.
I think that's what you should do.
Yeah.
And
The
if
same
you-
bill that we bought, let them make the amendment. That is what we did with the Commission of Information bill, or the information, access to information bill.
Access
Remember?
to it, yes.
We did a draft from the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth had given, I think, who would done that? I think Raphael Chapman.
Yeah.
Raphael. And indeed, it went, and then they said, no, we're not going to deal with this, but we're going to do our own bill. And we said, all right, we'll pass the bill, but it was pressure. And that is what we got to do.
Is it possible, Kemraj, that whilst only a member of parliament, of course, can introduce a bill, is it possible for us to have a signature campaign
Yes.
led by civil society
Yeah.
to support such an initiative?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I remember a signature campaign was done in relation to the Natural Resources Bill of the PPP to be delayed until it went to a select committee for civil society and all of that to talk on the bill before. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And we have my good friend Mansour Nadir just wrote the
You
what
have,
they call-
you have
petition.
friends, you have friends in high places.
I got friends in high places. We
Well,
go back a long time, quite frankly. So
well, we're all old, so
yeah,
we will go back.
Gets in great.
And then we've known each other
Yeah.
decades and decades.
So the point is that we can do that and present the petition
I
to
think
him
that's
again.
what I think that's what we should do.
Yeah.
I think that's what we should do. But Kamaraj has just raised another important point. This question of the Public Accounts Committee.
Yeah.
It seems to be spineless, energyless, whatever you want to call it.
Well,
And this is your forte. This is your territory. And
I've always quoted Sir Harold Wilson, the late Sir Harold, when he talked about how the Public Accounts Committee should function. Members have to sacrifice their own personal interest, partisan interest,
And party interest.
in favor of the national.
yeah, that should be not only that's in general in public life.
Yeah.
The national interest should always take precedence.
And he talks about the unanimous character of this,
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's a convention that governs that.
Unanimous charter.
of this body, the PAC.
Uh-huh.
In other words, this 9-member body must not be seen.
It's partisan.
Opposition, yes,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
But what's your take on what's happening now with this the Public Accounts Committee after all this song and dance, or maybe more like a crowd dance? You've got it constituted and then nothing is happening.
Yeah, well, we knew that was the motive behind it. Go back and check our speeches. I gave a major speech there in Parliament in relation to that matter. And all across the Commonwealth and even non-Commonwealth countries, you have to give in a PAC the opposition the chairman of their choice. And when you are now going to bring the matter back into the larger Parliament to say that we have no confidence against David Patterson, you are doing a de-gutting
And politicizing.
and politicizing the thing. And they have to stand by. That is the consensus I think Wilson was talking on the part of the government. The government must be broad-based in its approach to this issue. That look, we have to give. Who is it that the opposition wants as the chairperson? David Patterson. We'll give David Patterson. And that was the end of the matter. Now they're gone, and they did not only talk about chairman that they don't have any confidence in.
They
They
talk
didn't
about
have
quorum.
confidence in a quorum that was there since 1963. That is what they didn't have confidence in. So they have now said that the quorum must not be any 3 persons, whether even from opposition or government. We got to get 2 ministers or 2 government officials, 2 opposition officials, and the chairman before you could start examining the accounts. That is the reason now.
And then they don't come.
And they don't come. So as
That
you
is
say-
bad faith. That is a classic case.
come on, that
You
is
change the
true.
rules, so that you can then abuse the rule.
Absolutely. And they're
That's
doing
the
it.
best way to put it.
9 meetings they haven't turned up. Conveniently. And they're gonna block it because like they don't want you to start now coming down to 2020 and so on.
And what's your take on it?
Well, I share the views that
Don't rely on the politicians so much, you know.
You see what you
yeah, I don't want to repeat what he said, but I'm unhappy. I've written. In fact, I was involved in the work of the PSC since we put a man to start time. When in 1991, when I became Auditor General,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
you had about 75 to 81, 6 years of backlog PSC, and I drafted those reports, and for the PSC. And then come 1992, when we started back the process, Kenneth King was chair
Yes.
of the PSC. He put me on trial for producing a report and so on. But after then, he resigned, and then you had Winston Murray, one of the greatest elect.
That's right.
Right.
British parliamentarians, contemporary parliamentarians.
Right. He did a fantastic job, and then things got to them.
Well,
But we had two Englishmen that came to deal with these issues. What's his name? They were two to talk about standing orders.
uh-huh.
And remember the reports of the two. It has now slipped me. But in that very important period in 1999 to 2002, when we had so much constitutional reform, we also had standing orders reform.
Yes.
And the standing orders reform stated the rationale behind PSCs and why it should be treated and given even more resources to do its work.
So I would say during the period 92 to maybe 2000,
Yeah.
the PSC was functioning well, except for the period with the first year with Kenneth King when he tried to put me on trial. But there was no attempt during that period to politicize the war.
You had some issues with Desmond Hoyt as well, did you?
No.
No?
Desmond Hoyt supported everything I did.
Or with Greenwich, did you have any?
We had issues with him.
Yes, yes. And I think Hoyt supported you.
Yeah, Hoyt said that.
Now, the work of the Public Accounts Committee, correct me if I'm wrong, includes a report, and the government ought to have to answer by way of a Treasury memorandum.
Yes.
When last we heard of such? When last have we had something like that?
Well, it would have been 2015. The last report of the PSC is 2015.
No, did we have a Treasury memorandum?
Yes, we
Most likely.
yeah we had a treasury.
Within 90 days. But what will, if you have, in 2018 you produce a report for 2015. That's 3 years late,
Uh-huh.
4 years late. What will the Treasury
The
memorandum?
treasury
Yeah.
recommendations.
Because the Treasury memorandum would set out what the government has done or proposed to do in relation to the findings and recommendations.
It's like how management responds to a management letter by an auditor.
Yeah.
You found this is how we're going to correct it.
Yes.
And this is our commitment.
But it loses its potency when it is delayed for that long.
Right.
Well, but as we wind down, it loses its potency in a technical sense. But if it's part of a broader thing to frustrate democracy,
Yeah.
to frustrate integrity,
Financial
to frustrate,
integrity.
and more,
Yeah.
and to frustrate accountability, then it's more sinister than just a memorandum, isn't it?
Yeah.
I agree with you totally. I mean, this is one night and I'm finding tremendous agreement with you.
I get him worried.
My take is that the work of the PSC, for example, when I was at the UN, they have the equivalent body called ACBQ, which will examine the Board of Directors report. That body is waiting for the 30th of June to start. 30th of June was the deadline to submit the report of the Board of Auditors. And the very next day they would start examination.
Wow, wow.
The very next day they would start.
That's part of the calendar.
Yeah.
You try having a calendar. You know, when you look at all of these things, you have to get worried. You have all these committees. Now, we know all the commissions,
Yeah.
they've only been belatedly appointed, and
And
you
some
still-
have not been.
and some have not been. You still have the chancellor.
Yeah.
Despite the
Judicious.
commitments, despite the commitments that we
Yeah.
made, we still have acting appointments. You have a bench of judges that wholly inadequate for it, not because of their competence,
But the
but
numbers.
because of the workload.
Yeah.
Do you worry about democracy in this country?
I have and I've been writing about it in my press releases, the little times that I come on your program. This is my worry. It is the biggest worry that I have, because the PPP, even prior to 2015 when we got into government, I have been saying that about them. I think I thought that they were going to change after this 2020, but they have not. As a matter of fact, I think they've gotten worse because of so much oil monies now in the system. They want to duck all the information about oil monies, contracts, and I mean, look, what could be wrong if when you give Fisher Folk $250,000 to print their names as to all who got? What is wrong with if you give a double severance to the workers that we had terminated lawfully and had given monies to? Put it down there. If it is 4,000, 7,000, put it. They're saying it's 7,000 people we knocked out. We had about 4,300 people we knocked out. Put it down there. But they don't want to, because we understand now that some is not only other people getting the money, it is corruption that is in rampant state, you know.
Well, I heard of some corruption with this $40,000. It really,
Oh yes.
really worries me. But I want to put this question to
Which $40,000?
that if you work
Over to 10 days and you get a $40,000.
$40,000.
Oh yes.
there's serious. I don't know if you've heard about it.
I know about
It's taking place a lot in Region 6,
Region 6, yeah.
which is your area
I know.
of influence.
Yeah, you are very accurate about that. And a lot of people are indulging because they say mega for live.
But you know,
And there is no accountability.
there might have been might have been a well-intentioned initiative,
Yeah.
but it has now been bastardized and corrupted. I want to raise one other point. All these parliamentary subcommittees, what happened with them? Economic subcommittee, natural resource subcommittee, what happened with them?
Well, that is another problem you're finding in the committee at Parliament too. The chairperson for them wants a government minister. Meetings are not being convened. Look, I got a huge problem with my pal Robeson Ben. When we were in government, the Public Security Oversight Committee had to call in what am I name? Silal Prasad, Courtney, the fire chief, and the
CID man.
the CID man.
That was James?
Yes, and they cross-examined them for days. Tick piles like this of answer as to what is the police doing in relation to trafficking in drugs, this, that, all the thing. You know, for the 2.5 years now or 3 years, Mr. Ben has not constituted had his first meeting. He's the chair. Convened the first meeting.
But tell me something. You're a specialist. Can these things be taken to court?
I don't think so. I don't think that it could be taken to court.
But then, so what? You can behave as
Well, that
as
is where
recklessly-
governance and accountability is part of the executive. They, in the parliament there, we have got to go and complain to the speaker, the head of the legislative
Then
branch.
you might as well not complain. You might
He
as well
said
not complain.
he's indicated that he's spoken to him, and hopefully he gets his act together. But all of these are being subverted.
That's just one committee. That's one committee. What about the others?
Yeah.
Is he speaker? Does he know these things?
Well, I'm absolutely certain, because we have been speaking of them in Parliament, all budgets, and almost any time any new arrangement comes that talks about good governance.
But you know, Kamaraj, I don't believe democracy works by some speaker saying, "Oh, go and talk to the man." That's not how it works.
No, democracy also has a self-imposed
Convention, yes.
duty on the part of a minister. I didn't even know much about that oversight security committee, you know. It's when you go and you read up the thing quickly, you know, and Gail Teixeira, because I asked Gail, why y'all didn't have it for 10 years before? She said, well, that y'all are in government now. I said, all right. And then I go and talk to the clerk, and the clerk said, yes, this thing was passed during the constitutional reform process time, and any policy or administration, because I know you generally have committees that deal with policy in there, but we could call up any commissioner, fire chief, or prison chief and ask them on matters of administration, why did you make this decision? Why did you not do this, and so on? And so it is important. That committee would be very effective to understand the crime situation in Guyana, the fires that are happening, and a lot of people cussing that the fire service is not operating professionally and so on. But we can't get a meeting convened. It is blocking information. It is blocking transparency. That is what we have. So all over the stratosphere, in the political framework here that we have, transparency is being subverted.
And if transparency is subverted, democracy is being subverted. And to you, as civil society activist and outstanding professional, what can civil society do in these circumstances?
We have to band the results together and speak with a united voice. Civil society is too fragmented and out of fear.
It's fair.
Out of fear. Because civil society people will take an independent stand, and invariably any criticism of the government, you've got to say you're anti-government and you're being pushed in a corner. You're like an outcast.
You're labeled an outcast immediately.
So, and this is the reason why we in civil society we have not been able to get our act together, because people are unwilling to come forward.
Do you think, because we've all had a lot of hopes in President Irfaan Ali, do you think a request by civil society to meet President Ali, to discuss both our fears and our hopes?
We can try it. We can try it.
I could advise civil society, go and tell him to get rid of Bharat Jagdeo. That's the problem in this country.
It has to be more than one.
Oh, no.
No, it must be.
Okay, but I'm telling you, that's the bullseye on the target board. Because he is commander of everything. And he loves that. And that is where, when we created the 2-term limit, he has now subverted that by doing a bypass, by making himself vice president, and he now looking after oil, he looking after credit carbon, he looking after everything that is major, that gonna get problem, and especially dealing with money. He's somehow like that. He's attracted to that. Where they got billions and billions of US dollars. That is very easy. And I am telling you, and the civil society in this country, because let me make this point. It is a fundamental point I'm making.
We got 1.5 minutes.
All right. When you have a leader like that, and other leaders are so circumscribed and cribbed and confined by a leader like that, you generally psychologically wants to be like him. And he don't like transparency, he don't like accountability, he like none of them things. So you're going to find Irfaan, the closer he is with him, going to get like that. And that is wrong. That is not the leadership Guyana needs at this time.
But, I pose a question to Anand. And I think that's as much a civil society, but it's more a political question. But we have got to do something. I spoke in my class a couple days ago. It was yesterday. And I said, how many of you would leave this country if you had a chance, sir? I was surprised, probably shocked at the number of people who said they would. And these are young people, young budding professionals.
What they said that they would
leave,
folks.
with all this money.
Yeah.
there's not a lot of hope. And that's
And that
why-
is what is also destructive of hopelessness.
It's all about the politics of the situation. And you know, this one Guyana, thing, it's quite the opposite is happening.
Well, we have a national motto: one nation, one people, one destiny. And my thing is, instead of one Guyana, let us have 4 Guyana. Let people start talking about 4 Guyana, and then we stop thinking of party interest and who's supporting us and who don't support us. Gentlemen, it's now our end of our hour. I want to thank you so very much. Thank you for your patience, you yourself, operators and viewers.